Hello, you're watching West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Mike Patton and the rest of the women and the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, welcome once again to the show. As always, we like to start out the program with our Corner Spotlight, but before we do that, I'd like to introduce our guest, the Superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, Mr. Kenneth Gutman. Ken, how are you?
Great, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And we talked about how shy you are, so I'll give you a chance to get your
I'll do my best to come out of my shell.
Okay, all right. But don't run away. First, we want to do the Corner Spotlight and highlight one of our officers, okay? Folks, if you look on your screen, you'll see the smiling countenance of Detective Christina Koziarski. Christina is one of our newer officers, currently assigned to the Detective Bureau. And for an older guy getting towards the end of his career, it's always a pleasure knowing that we have our department in good hands with capable and energetic people such as Christina. So Christina, thanks for all you do. And you know what, I understand you're doing a great job in the DB, so keep up the good work. Christina started as a cadet in February 2007 and was promoted to police officer later that year in July. So she's been a police officer or involved with us for 6 years. So thank you for all you do, and I hope you have a long and happy career here in West Bloomfield. When I asked her what her favorite food was, she said chicken and cheese enchiladas, and I like those as well, Christina, so anytime you go for those, give me a call, we'll go out to lunch. Her favorite book, The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks, published in 1969, and I've got to be honest, I have no idea what that book's about. Her favorite movie, Dirty Dancing, the 1987 film starring Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, and I do know what that film's about. Her favorite music, country and western, or as they used to say when I was younger and played music, the white man's blues. So I enjoy that music myself, but I'll bet we don't enjoy the same musicians. Her accomplishments and hobbies, she likes to snowboard, wakeboarding, fishing, and hunting. So she is a true outdoors woman. So Christina, good luck out there, have fun. And when I asked her about a quote, she, like a lot of people, wanted to quote their mom. And you know what? People in law enforcement love their mothers, so it's a good idea to do that. Life is a precious gift from God. Be careful how you use it. Choose well your friends, for that depends whether you save your life or lose it. You know what? Your mother's a smart lady, and I know you've learned well. You know, Christina is not only dedicated serving in West Bloomfield, but for those of you who may not know, her husband also serves here, Sergeant Tilley. So we have two of them from that family taking care of you folks here in West Bloomfield. Now we're going to turn the Corner Spotlight off. Christina, I will see you back at the barn. Keep up the good work. Folks, today our tip is actually some information. We're going to talk about Operation Medicine Cabinet. Operation Medicine Cabinet is something that was started with West Bloomfield and other police departments around the county, including the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. And this program is designed as a drug take-back program. We're talking legal drugs, not illegal drugs. And as law enforcement agents, we are concerned of helping people. We're in a unique position to be able to take this stuff. So you come down to the station. We're open 24 hours a day. Bring your legal drugs to us. We will package it. We will dispose of it in a proper way so it doesn't get into the water source or someone gets a hold of it that shouldn't get a hold of it. And if you want more information about Operation Medicine Cabinet, please go to www.operationmedicinecabinet.com for more information. Please stand by, folks, with our special guest, Mr. Kenneth Gutman, Superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District. Come on back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Walled Lake Consolidated Schools serves Commerce Township, White Lake, Walled Lake, Wixom, Novi, and West Bloomfield. With 3 nationally ranked high schools, Walled Lake Consolidated Schools continue to provide a quality education to all students. Call 248-956-2000 or visit WLCSD.org to contact Walled Lake Consolidated School District.
We are back. Once again, welcome to the show. And I was really worried. I thought Mr. Gutman was going to run away, but he stayed. Ken, we're glad to have you
Great
here.
to be here, Rick.
You know, it's good that you joined us. We really appreciate it. And I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, and you always have that smiling countenance. And are you always smiling when you see the kids in the hallways, though?
Always, absolutely, and the staff, and the parents.
There you go.
You know, it's Walled Lake School is a great place to be. No
Yeah.
reason not to smile.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
How long have you been in Walled Lake? Because you started out as a school teacher like everybody
I
else,
actually
right?
began right here in West Bloomfield at Orchard Lake Middle School.
Okay.
And went off to, became an assistant principal at Orchard Lake, went off to Lake Orion Schools as a principal, and as a principal, then an assistant superintendent, then superintendent. Been in the Walled Lake Schools, I'm in my 4th year now.
Okay.
And loving every minute here in Walled Lake.
Now, what is the difference from an educator's perspective, being a teacher and now being an administrator?
Wow, you know, being a teacher is where it's at. That for me will always be the highlight of my career, being able to see that you've made a difference in the life of children. And I think the farther away you get from the classroom, the harder it is to tell you're making a difference.
Really?
And so each step of the way has been a little bit more difficult. I see the differences, I see the growth, but it's harder to see it in individual students.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to see. And at the same time, I do feel like I'm making a difference. It's just not as satisfying at times as being in the classroom. Teachers have, I think, the most difficult jobs in education, but I still miss it every day.
Do you really?
I do.
Now, do you ever just go into the classroom and kind of watch, and I don't know if that's intimidating to the teachers because the boss is here, but just to, get your face out there so the kids know who you are and maybe kind of get a feel again for what's going on in the classroom? Do you ever do that?
I do all the time.
Really?
In fact, a couple of different ways. One of them is more formal. I go with a team of administrators and visit each school and spend some time getting to get into every classroom. But I also book off a half day every week where all I do is drive school to school fairly randomly and go in and out of classrooms and get to see children. The advantage, I think, is I get to see what's really happening. It's harder to lose touch if you're there.
Yes,
I think it's really quiet when you sit in the office of a Board of Education. You sit among administrators. You don't get the passing time and the fun and the cafeteria. Right. So I do spend a lot of time in classrooms. And on those days, occasionally where things get a little bit difficult and stressful, it's great to sit down on the floor with some kindergarten kids and learn, or go into a high school physics lab or a chemistry lab. So I spend as much time as I can in schools.
You know, it's funny you say that you go sit in a kindergarten class with the kids, because I wish I had that in front of me now. There's no saying that like everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. I'm sure you're familiar with
Absolutely.
that. That take your nap and eat your cookies or whatever. That's really kind of true.
It is, and I also know that kindergarten teachers go straight to heaven. That's all I know, because they have very, very interesting jobs.
Well, I still remember my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Murphy. I'll never forget her, and then, I'm sure she has long since passed. May she rest in peace, but I'll never forget her. I may have forgotten some of the other teachers along the way, but I never forgot Mrs. Murphy.
It's your first experience with formal education.
That's right. That's right. And of course, back in those days, it was only half a day.
Right.
It's not that way anymore, is it?
Not at all. All day, every day.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Education has, there's always some things about it that remain the same. The goal is to educate the children and get them prepared to be responsible and good members of society. But society has put a lot more demands on you as instructors and educators nowadays, haven't they?
They have, and that's okay. And that's okay. We're preparing children for jobs that may not even exist yet.
Yes.
And so our job, I think, is a lot more difficult than it's been. But I think the expectations should be there. I think the accountability should be there.
Right.
We have difficult jobs, but they're so important. And there's not a child we should be, I hate to use the cliche, leaving behind.
Right.
We have a saying in Walled Lake Schools, it's every child, every day. And that means that every single child who comes in, regardless of where they come from, how prepared they are, what their background is, we're going to do everything we can every single day to make sure they're prepared for what is really a very changing world.
Yes. But even the educational aspect, if you can, touch a little bit on some of the social aspects of what is demanded of educators today. For instance, maybe that didn't exist years ago because family structures were different. I wasn't told to go to school and maybe learn banking or checking, and I've heard some schools are doing that where they're teaching kids how to keep checkbooks and stuff like that. Now, I don't know what's necessarily being taught in Walled Lake, but what about social aspects? Is there more demands on you guys that way too?
I think there are. I think there are definitely some more social aspects, demands on social aspects. I think when you get into the economics, kids are learning economics a lot sooner than they used to, and I wish I had learned it long before I got to Michigan State University. But I will tell you that the social, I think the most socially difficult aspect of what we do has really more to do with social media than it has to do with the demands that are put upon us. And I know you probably deal with some of this as law enforcement officers. We look at some of the online bullying, and I know we've worked together on some issues before. Right. We look at the texting and the sexting that's going on. Yes. And I think there's a lot more pressure on students right now.
I think so.
Than there has been in the past. Sure. I think it's more difficult to grow up. Even my own two children, I see they're experiencing things that I wish they didn't have to experience at younger ages.
Right, absolutely. And you know, one thing I always, and you and I talked about this before, and I told you this in the past, but I really meant it, and I want people to know that as well. I have a lot of respect for teachers and educators, and in any field, some are better than others. Doesn't matter where you go and what you do. Some are outstanding, some maybe not as good, but that's life in general.
I don't know. I hate to interrupt. They're all amazing in Walled Lake schools. So
well, I meant other than Walled Lake.
Okay.
All right. You know, I was speaking in the real world,
okay,
not
I just
not
want
in
to
the
make sure there wasn't
room.
any confusion.
But you know, I always had a lot of respect for teachers, and even when my kids are all grown up now, except I do have my youngest daughter's attending Michigan State University, go green and white.
The finest university in the world.
Yeah, she's in her second year of the vet program out there. And she told me, Dad, you're not allowed to root for U of M anymore.
Good.
So
she's right.
Yeah, so I said, well, even if you're not home? But when they were younger and they would have the open house, welcome the kids to school, I would tell the teachers in front of my kids, you have a right to discipline my children any way you see fit.
Right.
And of course I would tell them even corporal punishment, and then the kids would say, really? I say, this teacher takes the place of mom and dad. And if I have a right to punish you, they have a right to. Of course, they'd go play and say, you know, Mr. Trabulsy, we're not allowed to punish kids in that way. I say, I know that, but they don't know that.
Sure.
So let's just keep our secret.
Sure. And in
but
fact,
you have to show the respect to the teacher.
You do. And I think that we get a lot of parental support. We really do. I think it's a different world than it's been.
Yeah.
And I think we've become somewhat of a blame society in pockets. Mm-hmm. I know that when I was in school, I was paddled in 5th grade for talking when I wasn't supposed to talk. Yeah. And I remember rushing home to tell my father, who was a high school principal, that the teacher paddled me. And so because I thought the teacher would get in trouble. And I said, the teacher hit me. And he said, why? I said, because I was talking. He said, were you supposed to be talking? And I said, no. He said, okay. And I was shocked that the teacher wasn't getting in trouble. But it's that support for teachers. We feel a lot of that. We really do in Walled Lake schools.
That's good.
And I will even take any given day those parents who are upset with us, who want to blame us because we're not always right.
Yes.
I'll take them any day because at least they're advocating for their children.
Right.
And that's the most important thing.
Involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all advocate for children.
Right.
That's why we're in this business.
Right.
And I know you're such a supporter of that as well. When parents come in and want to disagree with us, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because they're disagreeing because they're advocating for their children. I welcome that.
Yeah. You know, and I've got to tell you, I've got some friends that attend Walled Lake schools, and they've always been very happy with the school district. And they're, me and this buddy, we go back since at least since I had more hair and less weight. And they love the Walled Lake schools, and they can't say anything bad about it. And that's kudos to you guys.
Wow, it's really a testament to what happens in the schools.
Absolutely. It
really is.
But you know, it starts from the top down. I mean, you inherited good schools, but it also behooves you to continue that, and you certainly have. And I can say that because, as you know, I go to your schools, and if I can just say to the folks out there, I want to thank you very much for allowing me to come into your school district. I teach in 4 of your schools. Mm-hmm. We teach TEAM, which is teaching, educating, and mentoring, took the place of DARE, as you know. And so I am privileged to be there, and it's a great honor for me to be there. And I've got to tell you, I love being in your schools, and the teachers have always welcomed me there. And what do people say that's good about it? absolutely true.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being there. It's our privilege to have you teaching children there, and I know they benefit. I know that from the children in Walled Lake. I know that from my own children who rave about you, and we're thrilled that I get to spend time with you today.
Well, thank you. And I know that it was a surprise last year when I was going to another school where your kids were at, and I heard you saying, Rick, and Ken, what are you doing here? Aren't you in the wrong district?
But you really do great things for kids.
Well, thank you.
It means a lot to us.
Well, and you guys do too. So, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Well, you guys just passed a millage. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to.
Let's go.
First of all, I have to thank the community, and I've done that repeatedly and will continue to do that. These are tough times. There's never a good time to ask for more money,
right?
Especially in difficult economic times like this. But our community came to us and said, especially after what happened in Connecticut,
yes,
which I think was particularly profound and deeply affected people because of the age of the children involved in that tragedy.
Without a doubt.
Our community came to us and said, we do need more. We need some more security. We know full well, and you know full well, that if someone wants to get into a school, a mall, a movie theater, they'll get in.
Right.
But at the same time, the more roadblocks you can put up, the more protocols, the procedures you put in place, the better off you are. So we went to our community, and we asked for $67.5 million, which was, it's less than a mill, 0.99 mil average, 0.78 mils in the first year, a 30-year max bond. You may at the end,
okay.
But you'll have tape to play back.
Okay.
And it was for safety, security, technology, and some other time-sensitive needs, including some transportation needs in terms of buses. So we went to our community, they did approve it, and we will have some more safety procedures in place as a result of this. We'll phase it in over the next 3 to 4 years. But we're excited to have that opportunity to be able to provide a safer, more secure environment for our children. We know if they don't feel safe, they don't learn. And that's true for all of us.
For the teachers and staff,
everybody.
you guys, everyone, that's right.
Everybody.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you guys have. What do you have planned in the Walled Lake schools that's new and exciting, besides the millage?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we are so excited right now to have had Walled Lake Central's marching band just won the state marching band championship 3 times out of the last 4 years.
Yes, and you know, when I was, my kids were in school, you guys, you used to beat us quite a bit too, so
that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Absolutely.
We didn't think so at the time, but.
So that's always nice to see, some of the extracurricular opportunities. We do also know that Western High School has a great IB program. Interbaccalaureate program, great staff there as well. Northern High School is always doing great things. We have 3 outstanding high schools, and that's a blessing in the Walled Lake schools.
Sure.
19 schools there, and there's always something going on in all of our schools.
And how many kids?
Over 15,000 students.
That's a little city.
You know, we're the 10th largest in the state. We're the largest in Oakland County, and I don't think any of us are ever bored.
No, I bet you're not.
So when you ask about what's going on in the schools, there's something going on every day in every school, and there's an opportunity daytime and nighttime to get involved.
Oh yeah, I bet. Now, how about your outreach in the community? Talk a little bit about that, because I know you're also part of the West Bloomfield Clergy Association.
Absolutely.
So talk about outreach from the school district perspective.
We do our best to get out there and become a part of the community. I know we're very much involved with a lot of our local law enforcement agencies. We're in 9 different municipalities, and we're particularly fond of West Bloomfield, and I don't just say that because I'm on your show, but we have some outreach there in terms of that. The Clergy Association is an outstanding group of people who really do a nice job communicating, and they're fun as well. I also do community coffees for outreach, and these are coffees where I just go out there. It's a coffee shop or a library or in our building, no agenda, because it's really easy to go to meetings and have agendas and control the agenda, but I just show up and say, what do you want to talk about? And not everybody who comes has great things to say, but they're saying them anyway.
Sometimes that's better to hear.
Well, that's just it.
That's how you grow.
I would rather hear them than not hear them.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of a nice outreach effort. I know some of our principals do that as well. And I always want to hear what people like and don't like, because we can always get better.
Yes. Well, you know, and I do like your principals. I've got to tell you, you've got a great staff out there. I teach at Pleasant Lake, Guest, Keith, and this year I will be starting at, Oakley Park. This year I'll be going back to Guest as well. Of course, I knew Michelle from Maple.
From Maple.
But all your principals have always been very welcoming, and they do a great job. So you've got a great staff. You're very lucky.
I'm very proud of who I get to work with every day. I also want to share with you, and talk about what's going on in our schools. Maple Elementary School, which we closed.
Yes.
We just sold it, and there's still
Good.
some contingencies, but we do believe it's going through, and so we sold it to a developer who will put some homes there.
Okay.
So we'll continue to increase the tax base here in West Bloomfield.
I'm sure.
Benefits everyone, and we get some more students in school.
That's right. That's right. Now, what is the? Let's go through the grade levels a little bit. We only have a few more minutes left. What do you see for your elementary schools, your high school? What does the future hold for all of that? What do you see as the superintendent? Where do you want to lead them?
Well, until we get to the point where we've developed an IEP for every child, we're not there. In other words, an individualized education plan.
Okay.
We currently have those for special education students, but we need one for every student. In other words, you look at a student as a parent, you get a report card, and it says your child got a B. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it means they're doing well, but there's room for improvement.
Right, but do you know what they can and can't do?
Not really.
And so I think we need to get a little bit better at that in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities for growth. That's something we're working to develop in our district, so every child has a plan. So when I as a parent get a report card that says my child got a B, I know what that really means. I know what my child could do better, what my child's really good at, because that's the way we help them grow as parents as well.
Now, you know, this is a pretty well-to-do community, but you have a large district, so you cover the gamut of socioeconomic status.
Sure.
Is there also a program in place through Walled Lake Schools that, let's say my kid, not that they're not bright, but some kids are destined for college, some are destined for maybe some other form of training, which we need those individuals as well. Does Walled Lake direct people, not necessarily tell them to go there, but maybe college isn't for you, but a good trade school is?
Absolutely,
Good.
absolutely. Again, you want to individualize with students. You want to make sure that they know what opportunities are out there for them. We work closely with Oakland schools and their tech centers, and so certainly the goal is not to fit everyone into some preconceived mold of where they're supposed to go, but to take their strengths and help them find the right direction. So we do have programs and opportunities for every child.
Well, that's good, and you know, and I think it's very important because I know we celebrate as a culture the people that can throw a football 100 yards or, you know, bat 350 when they come up to play, and I like athletics, so I don't have a problem with that. But it's really the people who are academically excelling, they're the ones that are going to be our leaders. It's not the athletes or the musicians necessarily. It's going to be people like that go to Harvard or go to U of M or go to MSU and achieve academic status. Those are the ones that can be our leaders.
Yeah, and I agree to an extent, but I'll also say this. There's probably a C student out there somewhere right now who's going to lead the world. And you don't ever want to put a cap on them based on their grades in school, although you certainly want everyone to achieve at a high level. But certainly we have a society that favors athletics, and yet we know there are opportunities in the arts, and drama, music, everything else for our kids, but we also are seeking to make them academically strong.
Yeah, that's very important to do, that's for certain. Well, it sounds like you got a good handle on everything.
Well, I work with great people, it makes it easy.
Well, what is it you'd like to tell the people about Walled Lake Schools that maybe you don't always get to tell them?
Sure, well, and it's something I do get to tell them, but I want to say it again. Walled Lake Schools is about every child, every day. And we're going to make sure that every one of our children is successful in partnership with our community and our parents and everyone else. We appreciate their support. I feel like I'm in a really good place to help children, and we're going to take care of all of them.
Now, can we talk a little bit about, I know you had another school that you closed a little while ago.
We did. We closed Twin Beach Elementary also here, and Twin Beach we're looking to sell as well.
Really?
And we're looking to sell it to a residential developer and again increase the tax base.
Beautiful. Ken, I want to thank you for all the work you do, and I really do mean that, and it is a pleasure to know you, not just as an educator, but as a friend.
Well, likewise, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to have you as a friend, and thanks for what you do for our community.
Thank you. We're going to highlight or memorialize a fallen officer, if you don't mind. So, folks, if you'll look on your screen, please keep in your thoughts and your prayers Lieutenant Joseph Tyrone Candy of the Michigan Department of Corrections, who was killed on December 19th, 2007. This is an unusual and very sad incident. Lieutenant Candy was shot and killed by a fellow officer, a disgruntled officer from the Robert Scott Correctional Facility. The employee had been disciplined by Lieutenant Candy, who was doing his job as a supervisor. He confronted him at a nearby gas station after the lieutenant had completed his shift, and the subject fatally shot this great American hero, Lieutenant Joseph Tyrone Candy. The man was arrested, convicted of murder, and sentenced to 25 to 40 years in prison. So please remember him. He left behind one child. He'd served with the Michigan DOC for 14 years. So I say to our brother, Lieutenant Joseph Tyrone Candy, rest in peace, my friend. You will not be forgotten. And if I could ask you folks to remember all law enforcement and corrections in your thoughts and your prayers. And once again, we ask you to watch us on the telly, and if you can't, you can turn us on at civiccentertv.com on the internet. I'm Officer Rick on behalf of my guest, Kenneth Gutman. We thank you for watching this show. Be safe out there. Take care of each other. Tomorrow's promised to no one. We'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.